Welcome back to another episode of To Lovecraft and Back. I am Aaron Michael, your wonderful host. With me is Mike. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, man.
You better.
All right, man. So here you go.
Well, I mean, we're about to deal with a very heavy episode.
Yes.
It's called Meet Me in Daegu, episode 6. For all our listeners, this is an episode that deals with molestation. It deals with a lot of gore aspects, Korean mythology, South Korean mythology, which has a lot of we'll get more into that, but it's got a lot of gory elements to deal with. Also with the struggles of war, the Korean War at the time, and even some racial politics. It's a very heavy episode. So, with that said, let me go ahead and explain to y'all what this episode is about. It's called Meet Me in Daegu. It's set in Daegu, South Korea. I forgot the date. Oh my gosh, but it is around the time of the Korean War. Do you have that date, Mike?
No, I just had the date of the movie that is like referencing. Yeah, I don't have the date.
Well, just know that it's somewhere before the first episode of Lovecraft Country. And we are introduced to Jiha, and she's watching a film, Meet Me in St. Louis, which is, this big musical, Judy Garland. And we first meet her when she is singing in a theater. And I personally am thinking this is about to be a whole different kind of episode as per usual. But we get a dose of reality to know that she's just in the theater being silent because, that is how it is out there. Mike, how did you feel about this opening? Because I feel like what we get here kind of speaks on what we get for the rest of the episode.
I love the opening. I'm a big fan of musicals. Yes, it was Meet Me in St. Louis, and I think it was kind of cool because I feel like the only movie that a lot of people know is The Wizard of Oz with Judy Garland. But this, and what I like is that how Ja was so intrigued into the, intrigued in it and, reciting it and just like, a hopeless romantic, as if the character was a hopeless romantic that was on the movie that she was watching. So I like the fact that I felt like she could see herself in this person because I don't, she's single. She's probably not really talking to anybody, just, working day in, working day night, taking care of her family and things like that. So I felt like being in this movie theater and seeing this movie, I felt like it was an escape for her. I felt like it was, a place. It was her happy place. It ain't that many people in this movie theater. She, like I said, she was reciting it, she was singing it, and she was just, in her moment.
Yeah, let's kind of go into that because you talking about just her everyday life. So since she's a nurse for the military, and everyone around her is guy crazy. They all want a husband. They're all looking for that next relationship. Oh yeah, the classic Hollywood love. And even then, Jaya, like that's what she wants when she's talking to these guys. She's quoting Judy Garland. She's trying to have an actual conversation, and everybody just like, I just want to get through this. I just want to talk, but her, she actually does have a friend, which I thought that was that was her girlfriend. I really thought just because of the way they were setting it up,
yeah.
But that just, they were just very close, and that's really cool. But her at home, her home life, I think that's the most interesting aspect. This is where it gets heavy, guys. So her mother, it's basically her and her mother, and they have this sort of, classic strict parenting, household. And I think the setup there was very reminiscent of, those going right back to Jaya's imagination. That's very reminiscent of like Cinderella or something, because we just get this sort of, evil, wicked mother who is so harsh on her. And it's a huge clash compared to, like, when we get into reality, just from where we're meeting her in the first time, and then to know it's also this huge war in the backdrop of all of this, and they're looking, and to kind of speed it up here, there are U.S. soldiers looking for communists.
Right.
People who are selling the U.S. Army out. So I just, that was a really cool aspect for all of this, because, there's a lot going on just for 25 minutes,
Yeah.
and, kind of throw the question at you, Mike, how do you feel in terms of what we get as far as the setup post introduction, like with her whole life? How do you feel they handled that? Because this was really heavy.
I felt like they handled it, well. I mean, as you say, they set up her setting of her town and everything, like far as like period piece and what the time frame is, and how, it is real stuff happening in that city and everything like that. I hate how, not hate, but the things that she's gone through, I hate that she has to carry that. I feel like, that's, like you said, she's working and everything, but she's also carrying the burden of different things. And, I feel like she is just making ends meet. She's just doing what she has to do to really, please her mom. I'll say that for now.
Yeah. That's a massive understatement, because right before we get into why she's trying to please her mother, I'm thinking personally she's just trying to please her mother because her mom wants her to get married. It's a classic. Your mother's hard on you. She wants you to get married, have some kids, get out the house. That whole shebang. But we get our first look at what the real meat of the episode is when Jaya takes a man home with her and they have sex. And immediately when this guy thinks he's got it, he's about to meet the woman of the rest of his life. He's about to have such a great life. We see some tentacles coming up. See Mike's palming his face because he knows, like, that was a wild scene.
Like, I think what was wild about it is that the tentacles don't come out until until she realizes that they're climaxing, and when they come out and everything, and they get on her eyes and everything. I will say, I thought that was cool. Because I thought,
cool.
I like powers, I like supernatural stuff. I do. I thought it was cool that when, the tentacles come out and they attach themselves to the body, they see the flashes of that person. They see their memories and everything, their past, present, and their future. And then what happens next? She kills this man. I'm just like, like, just instant, like,
a smile.
And I was just like, wait, what? You see this whole man's life and that's it? But I do like the fact that, that the spirit, or because it is a spirit and it's a folklore from, this, this whole thing. And I think that's kind of cool that, that when it does, the tentacles does attach, you see the past, present, and future of that person and everything.
Right. It just, just having her basically to kind of, get that up to speed. So her mother, I guess, discovered that her daughter was being molested by her husband, which was Jia's father. And in order to get revenge, she met a shaman, I believe. It was a shaman. And it's this little woman. And she basically had the daughter bound to this big mythological creature called the Kumiho, which is, Korean folklore myth, fox spirit. And basically she has 100 men to
I don't
seduce
know.
and kill.
When she first got the protection, and then she found out it was 1,000 men. At
Oh,
that
okay.
point
So it's 1,000 men. Yeah.
the president of the episode, it's 100 men.
Okay. Yeah. So she's ran through 900 men before we get to this episode. She has ran through and killed 900 men. Let that sink in, guys. So she has
Wait, 99?
to.
Wait, so it was
999. So I think by the end of it, it's like 999, and
okay.
then she just
So a
needs one
99
more.
men, and then Tick would have been number one. So I guess the man that we saw at the beginning, he was 98 to 99.
Right. So see, like she's run through a decent amount of men to try to make this curse go away. And the thing is, her mother, she's just scrubbing the blood up because that's the game. And and that's a very good twist on, kind of what I was saying earlier, that Cinderella story. But the reason why this is my favorite episode is because the twists in it, and not just because of the setting, but the twists in it and the pacing felt like an anime, like a very classic, anime story, just because we have this girl who is just wanting more. She wants to be free. She wants her own life back. Her mother wants to have her life, and all this stuff. But there's a terrible secret and a curse. And if that's not classic anime, Lovecraft, and even Disney, I don't know what is. This girl is running around like the Beast off of Beauty and the Beast. This was some heavy stuff, but I think, to kind of go right into where it is like Beauty and the Beast is she meets Atticus, who is a soldier who has come to Korea to fight the war and to also, help find these communists. And in the midst of all this, she has her best friend. She is pro-communism. She's saying, we've got to help, help the Communist Party and all this stuff. And she gets killed, at the hands of
Atticus was there when that happened, right?
Right. I think he was the one who pulled the trigger. I'm not sure.
Yes, I think he did pull the trigger.
Yeah. So, it's that kind of goes, and just to tell everyone why this is so important is because this goes right back to Atticus's vision in episode 2. He kind of, I feel like he kind of mixed both women there, but because he saw, this was the war, and he's fighting, he's still fighting, these terrible things, within himself, but also, seeing him just a flat out murderer, in this episode show, he's not perfect. He is absolutely not perfect. And then, as the episode goes on, we see that he and Jaya, they have a relationship, a very loving relationship where they're watching movies. Like, this is the man that she's been looking for since we first see her doing that little minute search with a man. Like, this is. Yeah,
I was about to go piggyback to what you had just said about how he, was having flashes. I love how it came back full circle, how on episode 1, the opening scene of the series, when she comes down,
that's right.
The actress that plays her comes down as this red princess from Mars, and it was alluding to her being an alien and everything, or because she wasn't human. And when we do find out about her character, she is still not human. So for him to be having that flash or that thought in the past or in the beginning of the season, thinking about her and everything like that, and we come to find out that she is not human. Not an alien, but she's not human. So I felt like that was like, foreshadowing up for this episode and everything. I do love, I will say, I do like I hate it, but I do love the story on here because it's like, they're both going to do different things. Him being in this, and then he did what he did, and then her going through what she's going through, and then she thinking that this is going to be the one person to, break this, this curse or spirit or whatever. And, but in actuality, they end up because she ends up taking care of him and, nurturing him and then reading to him and everything. And they end up, communicating and, talking and
Right.
falling. And when you said about the movies, I remember I think it was their first date after they had actually been, communicating and everything, and how he set it up for her. And, he gave her the flowers and everything like that. And they watched the movie, and it was just, almost it was too good to be real, because they were actually, falling for each other and, building something, because these two different people coming from these two different lives, going through these two different tragedies, and, forming as one and being a support system for each other. That's what I hate it, but that's what I do like about this episode, because, that is the beauty of, hey, your Beauty and the Beast right there. There is the beauty of the beast that she is and the beast that he can be as well.
See, it all comes full circle, guys. That's why you need to watch this show. But, I just really feel, I think what the most interesting aspect of this episode was how her mother Soon-Hee was, so adamant about her, righting this wrong, but her also alluding to the fact that her daughter, that was not her daughter. That was the fox spirit. Like, I really think that's interesting, because at halfway through the episode, as she's being so cold and distant until she meets Atticus. And even then, she's like, well, what is love? She's asking her mother all these questions, what is this? What are emotions and all these things? And I'm even asking myself, well, is this just the fox spirit? Who is the true, character here? And I really, that was a really good moment, just to have. But, for the whole overarching point of the character, that was very interesting, because you don't know, honestly, you still don't know who is, this character, who is real in this whole thing.
I do want to piggyback on something, or, basically bring something through my notes. The Count of Monte Cristo has came up a lot in this series, because that is Montrose's favorite book. And then, as well as Atticus keeps that book beside him. And, we know that Atticus is a bookworm, and he is raised by two men who love these books as well. But, in the story, she reads that to him as he's in the hospital, and, it begins to, bring into fruition the story of Monte Cristo, as in him and her. But the only thing about it is, I think in the book, I think something tragic happens. I mean, something tragic happens to them, but it's just like, handle it different, and they handle it more of, almost like a comfort and care for each other.
But see, and even then I have to ask, originally, was this just for her? Was she doing all this just so she could avenge her friend Youngja, who was murdered? Was she just trying to avenge her death and get back at Atticus? Was she trying to get close, to the point and then just kill him? That's such an interesting character, that's what the streets needed, honestly. Like, it was a breath of fresh air, compared to last episode. We're still, in the city, where all this is happening, but we're in South Korea. We don't know anyone but Atticus, and we're just, we're getting, a lot of meaty story, and I think that also goes into what makes stories so powerful. Just from a writing standpoint, because we get this really is this. Honestly, I could take this as a love letter to classic Hollywood films, if we're going to be honest.
Be honest with us then.
Well, it feels like we start with Meet Me in St. Louis, which, you got your classic Hollywood stuff, but this is a classic love story, a 50s style boy meets girl has a terrible secret with her family, but it goes into, this almost fairy tale like thing, which was, super hot back in the day. And it just but also with the fact that it's two people of color, it's not just, to, it's not Atticus and a white girl or, anything like that. We have a South Korean woman and a black man, in this loving relationship, an interracial relationship. That's based, to me, in my own personal theory, I feel like Misha and the team were saying, we're going to tell a classic love story, but on our own terms.
Right.
It's like, we're going to tell this story, and they did.
I want to talk about how, I just lost my point.
Interracial love.
No, it was like a foreshadowing of them. Oh, that's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was the fact that, that was that mystery call. And then we finally find out that this is who, like, when she kept saying, you shouldn't have went back. You shouldn't have went back. We all, the viewers, all of us are like, why? Who is this person? Who is this person? And now we have this episode. We see that backstory. We see that, the conflict, the emotions, the relationship. Right. And because, it leads up to, them about to, them having sex and everything. And then she does, when everything happens, her tentacles does come out and he is freaked out, but them tentacles still get him and she sees his future and she sees him die, So I love the fact that, like I said, it was a mystery this whole time. And then we finally get to see this person who was basically asking why did he go back? He shouldn't have went back and everything like that. And that the fact that the reason was that because she saw his future and saw him dead. Like, that was kind of my favorite part.
And I think going off of that, in my, not even in my opinion, I think that's fact at this point. This kind of reinstates why Tick is so, shell-shocked when we first meet him, in episode 1. Like, when you see some stuff like, when you see some tentacles trying to kill you once you, are in your ultimate happy place, I think, when you leave and you come back to America, even then, it just, nothing phases you. How can you explain something like that? And I also think it works, to the story's advantage where why Tick is so into conspiracy.
Right.
Like from the moment he's talking with Uncle George, about going to basically, Arkham and all that. That kind of plays on to that. And, it also it's making me think a lot now, he really wasn't that phased when he saw certain monsters because he saw this, he's had some tentacles try to attack him.
And like you said, when you have something attack you in your happy place and you escape from it, you can't fear nothing but God and the devil.
Right.
Right. It's nothing to fear because you're in your happy place and you had tentacles on your eyeballs, man. Like you gotta fear nothing else now. Like, there's nothing else to fear. So I do 100% feel that. I feel like, yes, he was not phased when it came down to monsters in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Or if they did go through stuff, he wasn't phased. He went through it. So, because in the past, he already was expecting to either be killed or, something happened to where he would be, hurt really bad. But I think he had already came to that, it is what it is. I had tentacles on my eyes. So,
I mean, the man, he did what he did. Yeah, and it just like, that goes... Yeah, it deals with that whole thing that I wasn't expecting any of that. I was not expecting that whole plot point, but it was also kind of backing up. I think it was a really nice moment for when Atticus was, going to go to America. He wanted her to come with him, before he found out what he found out. And I think
he would have brought her back.
Yeah, he was very adamant on bringing her back with him because, as we know, his mother, not his mother, but her mother, being the Ruby of the episode that she is, she's like, no, you have to follow. You have to follow the code of what the fox spirit, is desiring, this one last kill so that I can have my daughter back, and that whole back and forth, that pushback, from Jaiha, once she kind of picks up on what the real issue, for her is, which is love. I personally think, this is a very strong character just from that moment, because we don't see this with, the other characters. We don't really have, like, there's still a familial bond with everybody. Everybody is connected from episode 1 through 6, or episode 1 through 5. But, to have that, butting, like straight up butting heads with a mother figure, we don't get that with the other characters. The closest we get with a parental is Tick and his dad, and I think that also kind of, now I'm saying that out loud, that kind of goes further with mirroring for Gia and Tick, is that they both have parents who just get on their last nerves, but they want the best for them. And, I think going back to what we were saying last episode and a few episodes before that, just the idea of, here's a parent who knows arguably who knows what's best for them, for their child, but they don't know how to express it.
Right.
And I think now that's a theme of the whole series. It's nobody really knows how to express what they're feeling. And how did you feel mostly about her stepping up to her, to the plate with her mom?
I feel like, because, when it happened to Atticus, and then she saw somebody that she loved, actually, because she built any other person before that, she did not build no, relationship with. She did not, she didn't build anything with them. With Atticus, she did. And then to see him die, and then to see him freak out like he did, I think that was the moment where she was like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. I know it. I know why you did it and everything like that. But at the same time, this is draining me as a person. That's what I felt like from her. I felt like, because she lost a person that she loved at the end of the day, So she had to, stand up to her mom and tell her that, hey, like, I can't do this anymore. We need to go to the shaman and figure out how we can get, rid and dead of this.
Well, see, and going off of that, they do go to a shaman, once Tick leaves a heartbroken GI, they do go to a shaman, and I just love that shot where the fox is right there staring the whole time.
Yes.
I love that shot. Like, that was, the color grading, the cinematography, just, oh my God. Like, y'all, whoever did that episode, y'all did the thing. Y'all did the thing.
It's like every episode we say that.
Well, they really, from a film nerd standpoint,
I saw people saying that. I saw some little things that saying that, like, it felt like it started off as an anthology and everything, which it did, but at the same time, when it got to the halfway point, so it had to focus on other characters. With this situation, it had to tackle Atticus's past, and also woman was telling him, you shouldn't have left, or you shouldn't have did this, and you should have stayed, and everything. It had to tackle those issues to move forward with Atticus as a person and with Ja as a person.
Let's talk about that for a second.
So, like I said, I appreciate.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on that.
You said talk about.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Said?
Yeah, because I think this episode, like the previous episode, it was, even though it was still some wild things, it was very grounded. But I think this episode, the reason why it's my favorite is because of how cinematic it is. I kept saying anime earlier, but it's very cinematic. And I think this turned a lot of people off because they were hoping and expecting one thing. but we got something
Mm-hmm.
else. How do you feel about we talked about this a lot previously, but off of camera, but how do you feel about people starting to have more complaints about where the show is going?
I really, and I hate, I ain't even gonna try to sound like, like mean about it, but I hate when people find stuff to complain about something. So, I guess because it's good to me, I feel like everybody should appreciate the story that is being told. Like, because I feel like, it's, yes, it did feel like an anthology at first. Yes, it did. But then when it gets deeper into the episode and it get deeper into these other characters and everything, there is a lot to unpack with everybody. There's a lot. I mean, even with the next episode, that whole episode in itself is a whole character that has been dealing with stuff, and that person finally gets to have some type of resolution for themselves. So I feel like, every episode leading up to the last episode is, I feel like, yeah, 5, 6, 7 are really focused on characters who needed to unpack things.
Yeah.
They had to unpack trauma. They had to unpack emotions that they had been holding on to. They had to unpack tragedy. They had to unpack any type of emotion that was holding them from getting to the next level as that character. I'm out.
Oh, yeah.
Drop the mic,
yeah, drop the mic. Mike. So, in case you haven't noticed, Mike dropped the mic. He better do that every episode from now on, because
come on, man.
So perfect. Like, no, that was very.
No, but that's
well
real.
said.
It's real.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about. I get a little too passionate about stuff, and because I feel like, as both of us being creatives, and you doing screenwriting and everything like that, and wanting to direct, I want to write and do short films, and as well do photography and stuff like that. I feel like because we're creatives, we see it in a whole nother lens from everybody else. Because the majority, some people are just watching it and they don't see it. A lot of people don't see it from how we see it. So it's like, I respect a lot of people's opinions and how they feel, but then it's just some negative things. I just be like, but just stop watching it. You still talking, you still on episode 9, still talking trash about it. Let it go. It ain't for you. Like, it ain't for you. It's okay. Like, every show is not for everybody, but I do just, like I said, as creatives, I think we resonate with the deepness, the breaking down of stuff, how they take these characters and put them, you start them off here and then you put them all the way. Because, looking at it, as you say, even with this episode, I was not expecting her to be this type of, have this type of past and this type of, thing happening to her. And then for Tick to have finally find his war story and everything like that, when he was going through and how he has his PTSD and going through things that in his past. It's just, like I said, it's just layers and layers and layers that adds more chef kiss to the show.
Yeah, some je ne sais quoi.
Oh, here you go.
You know what honestly, you know what this reminded me of? Another film that took, like, you think it's going one way and just took a turn. That would be Eyes Wide Shut. Every episode from this point on, I got to make a reference. Oh my gosh, y'all don't realize it. Y'all sleeping on that movie.
Okay, so on the second half of the series, when we have to break down the books of his short story of H.P. Lovecraft, because there are a couple of movies, we will have an Eyes Wide Shut episode, because he's going to do this every episode. So
that is correct.
I've never seen Eyes Wide Shut. I'm gonna watch the trailer when we finish this, and when we come back, I actually say a little tea piece about the trailer, but. We were going, sis, because you keep referencing. Let's go ahead and put it in the back session of Lovecraft and Back. On the back end, we will have an episode where we talk about Eyes Wide Shut. I am curious about, because you said the surveillance of that movie. You did bring that up when we was talking about episode 2. You said that that gave you that that feel of how it was happening there. So we will take a day. And we'll talk about it. I'll watch the movie and we'll talk about it.
So in case anybody who's listening and or watching, unlike Atticus, I got what I wanted.
I don't have nothing to say. Can you get back to the box, man?
Yes. So going off of what Mike, going off of what Mike said earlier, when we see Atticus's future as of 1950, right before he, leaves Korea, this is we basically see highlights of other things that we've seen, in visions from other characters, and even moments from future episodes and past episodes, particularly something involving Letty that I don't think happens just yet. So we're going to hold off on that, but It's very important. It's very important to the plot because I feel like this leads to a lot of confliction within Tick, as well as, what happens with Letty and even the story, after this episode. But we get a sense of urgency because she's like, don't go home. You're going to die. I don't want to see you die. And Tick just like, lady, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. But, and that just goes right back to how hard-headed Tick is. Oh, my gosh. Wait, no, it's that time. Let me get on Tick for a minute. Tick, you got this woman who is trying to warn you that your life is in danger. The man's already been through war. Let's just talk about Tick for a minute. He's already gone through war, and he still doesn't believe that these things are going to happen. It's kind of like I think what they were trying to show is that even though he's grown, from episode 1 through 5, there's still those moments, especially past Tick, where he is just like his father. I think that's a big overarching thing, just because, by the end of the episode, he goes back home. Jaya, she basically, I assume she's kept the spirit just because she didn't kill anybody else. And we saw that fox just standing there. That's what I took it as. But, that could be interpreted much differently because of something that happens later. But, yeah. But I think, the whole overarching thing, and the only reason why Tick was in this episode, because he didn't have to be here, but I think the reason why he was is because we needed to be reinforced for past episodes and future that he is just like his father, in that he makes mistakes, but he is a very integral part of this overarching, conspiracy against the world, basically.
Right.
Because I think this, that vision also really shook Jia as well, just because I think, she knows what's coming with the Sons of Adam.
Right. Yeah, she do. Yeah. She was trying. But look, if he wouldn't have went back home, he wouldn't be able to go through his trials, tribulations of his destiny. I just leave it at that. He would not.
That is very, very true.
It'll happen soon, but because Ja is not done just yet either. So it's like, I feel like it was all led up to the big plot point of this whole series. So, but this episode was deep, and it was really, really very deep, very rich, very, like I said, I love the fact that last episode, and then the next episode were very character focused on characters that, were almost like third characters in the frame of this series, how it started off. Episode 5, 6, and 7, they do focus on characters that really have not had no focus. Like I said, Ja was a mystery lady on the phone that was telling him you shouldn't have came back. Now we find out that she's this complex character that's been holding on to this, burden and everything like that. And like you said, we find out Tick's past and how he has been acting, and how what he's been through in the past is how he acts now in the present. So this was another great episode for our characters to really,
Definitely. Yeah, and I love how it ends where Jaya and her mother go to the shaman, and they just want to know, is Tick going to die? And
Mm-hmm.
we don't know the answer, and I think that, that is a perfect way to jump right back into, the next few episodes leading to the finale, because that's a question we all want to know, because
Right.
that's what Christina is so fixated on.
Right.
It all ties in perfectly. But yeah, this was arguably in my top 5 episodes, just because the way it handled everything. I feel like it's a love letter to story structure and old Hollywood. And for anybody who is into screenwriting and filmmaking, you got to study these things. And I am a sucker for it.
Right.
So, they did the thing on this, but yeah, we can go ahead and wrap up, this really great episode. So, for everyone who's still here, I got what I wanted. We're going to be watching my favorite movie from Stanley Kubrick, because Mike has never seen it. This was a heavy ass episode where we talked about a lot of things, but of course it still goes back to Mr. Tick and his hard-headed self. And yeah, I am excited to know what happens in the next episode, because oh boy, this is probably the best episode of the entire season that's coming up. Yeah. So as per usual, I am Aaron Michael, your number one Lovecraft boy. Number one right next to me, of course, is Mr. Michael.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do hope you have enjoyed. Thank you to everybody who's listened to us from episode 00 till now, episode 6. We do appreciate you. We have some things planned. We can't wait to share them with you. And like I said, we are really in for the long haul. Like I said, I can't wait till we close out the season of the series, and then take a little break, and then come back and talk about all the movies and the short films and all the games that, have been inspired by this universe of H.P. Lovecraft. So that's just that whole To Lovecraft and Back. I'm just ready to get to the Bat, because in the Bat, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that can be explored with the whole Lovecraft universe. Check us out on Modiversity. That is our other podcast with a couple of friends that we have. We are inclusive, transparent, and we put things to the forefront, and we talk about all things geeky, nerdy, gamey, all those type of things. We have some segment shows on there. We have Q and Key talking about wrestling. We also have that really actually just started is Bitch What? Where the ladies of the diversity, they bring up issues that are, current and that needs to be addressed as well. You also have The Mess with me and another co-host on there. Her name is Joe. We are talking about Bridgerton coming up. We also are talking about The Flight Attendant and The Undoing and some other couple of shows. I think by this time this have aired, or this episode dropped, WandaVision has dropped, and everybody has to watch it. Everybody has to watch that show. It is going to be on Disney Plus. Yes, I am plugging WandaVision right now, because when I say I don't think nobody is ready for this show, I think a lot of people are going to expect one thing, and they're not going to be ready for what they're going to give us. So yes, check out WandaVision. Yeah, and y'all got Shake the Table. You and Avia coming on the More Diversity channel.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that.
So I can't wait to see that.
Oh,
but
I'm excited.
Yes, we are your Lovecraft boys. Thank you for coming out to listen to us. We will see you soon. Y'all have a great night.
Yes, and for anyone who doesn't think we do, the Lovecraft boys absolutely 100% stand with Ray Fisher.
Yes, we do stand with Ray Fisher. AE. I'm glad we could have talked about that. We do stand with Ray Fisher and that whole, investigation with the racism going on at that whole situation. We will bring that up, definitely. But we do stand with Ray Fisher on this episode. Yes, we do. Well, that's it. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.